So to add the choice, so first we need to create one variable as a sets. So in that we need to make put the values like this. So with the key and value. So this is just a single character we are going to store. So it means that if it is a S, capital S, so the value is the small. If it is a M, the value will be the medium. So if it is a L, the value will be the large. So we can access small, medium, large, anywhere, anything when we are populating the data. So, but when we are storing into the database, so we just have to mention that S, M, and L. So let's see how to add this. So after created that variable, we need to uh, create the column. So I just create as a book size. So models dot. So if you type choices, so we get the choices, and we need to add the choice value. So we can set the default value also. Once if we make any changes in the database, we should do the make migration and migrate. So then only it will migrate the data into the database. Okay, default, there should be some value. Okay, I might forgot the syntax fields. So choice fields, so like this, we need to create the list. Okay, we need to give a max length. So this is max length. We are going to store just 1 byte as a one, and choices is equal to and that variable. Okay, we need to use the character field only. So max length it should be one. So because we are going to store only one character, so we need just a one character value. Okay, now maybe it is giving the SQL error. So because we are not connected to the SQL server. Okay, so now the application is running in this port. So now we can able to access that from the subject. From the subject table, we can able to fetch the data. But here we have not done any operations so for this subject. So that's why it is not given error. So because if you want to set any values for that column, so it will give the error for the choice. So because we need to do the make migration and migrate. So it is already some values are there in the database. Some 2 3 rows was we were inserted for the subject table. So that's why it is asking to insert some default value because we are creating a one new column. So that is the book size. Okay, so first we need to select as a one because we are providing a one of the default value now. So that default value we are going to give one character else. Okay. So within a single quote, we need to mention that single character as S. So then it is created that migration file. So after it's created the migration file, we need to run the migrate. So now it is migrated. Even if we see in the database, so we can able to see that. So if we see that in the subject table, the book size is there. So it is storing only character S. So because we have given the default value. So this is the type we have to store the choices. So in the Django, we can create the choices like this. So in the same way as a foreign key, we can create the two more types. So that is the one-to-one and many-to-many. So many-to-many, you may know about that. It is the second normal form. So when we are creating the tables, so if there is a dependency of creating, if there is a relationship between the table to table is a many to many, so that time we can use the many to many field. So means, So whatever you are creating the table, so and this table, it is having a many to many relationship. So it means it can have a multiple rows with the same key. So also one-to-one field is it's same like a primary key. So it will have only the one row in that table. So as same like primary key. Okay, when we are going to fetch all the data, so we need to call the objects.all. So this we have done it already. So when we are fetching all the objects, so we need to call subject dot student dot objects dot all. So that time it will give all the rows of the table. So when we want to filter it, so like in the select query, so we used to add the where condition. So to filter the values. So in the same way, so we need to add the filter. So by using the filter, we can it's like a where condition. So in that we need to mention the column name and then the value. So it will find that so in which rows these values are exist. So that those many rows will be returned from this line. So this filter we have tested. So if you have any doubts, you can ask in the middle.
Okay, sir.
Also, we can get the primary values. So, for example, if you are going to get the value, get means it will return only one row, only one object. So it means we should only monitor track from the primary key. So, for example, if I want to so ID equals to 1. So now I will get the student object which is having the primary key ID as a 1. So that object I will get it here. So let's debug. So now we got only one student object. So which it contains the only one student value. So that is the int ID is the primary key. Even we can mention that it has a ID, or else we can mention it as a PK also. It means that primary key. So now also we get the same object which it contains the ID and then the name and then the PK also it is representing as a 1. So PK means it is a primary key of that table. So we don't create the primary key in the tables. By default it gives the primary key as a ID. For all the table it creates the primary key. So in the database that is the basic rule and that is the first normal form to apply. So all the tables should have one unique identifier. So that is the one unique primary key. Also, there is a many types of fields. So integer fields also we can set and double values also we can store. So those types we can try it out. So when we create as an integer field, So it will store only the integer values. So when we are creating the tables in the SQL also, so we mention that. We see that. So when we are creating any column, so that time we need to mention the data type. So whether it is an integer or character, varchar, so integer, float or double, so all those things we used to select in the same way. So in the Django modeling also, we need to select the what type of data we are going to store in that column. Also inside the model class, so we can create one meta class. So inside this meta class, so we can add some any ordering type and filtering everything we can set it by default. So when it is returning, so when they do it by order, so it will order that column. So for example, there is an horn length. So there that is a one column in this table horn length. So it will order that when it is returning the list of objects, it will return the values with order with this column. Also when we are representing the object, so it will represent by this name. So when we are saving the object, if you want to make some any other alterations, so we can do this by using this save method. So for example, I have created one save method. So here I'm just printing the value. So it is going to save the object. So when we are inserting the values to the table, so it is going to save the object. So before saving, we can set some many values for this column also. So after that only it will save the values. Otherwise, if you want to write some any trigger, otherwise if you want when the data is inserting, if you want to send some mail, so we can add the code for sending the mails. Or else if you want to send.
Hello.
Yeah.
Sir, I have one doubt, sir.
Yeah, tell me.
Actually, this content is a Python code, right?
Which one? Yes.
Define save method.
Yes.
This content is not split.
This
Uh, this content is not placed for model.py, sir. Views.py is a Python code, right?
Yeah, this is also Python code. Here we have created a class. This is also Python code. So in this Python code, we have created a class. So we have seen the object-oriented modeling, right, in the Python class. In the same way, we have created the class. So, but we have extended.
Actually,
Okay.
I thought DP content only models.py and Python backend code only views.py. So
No.
asking.
Complete whatever you are seeing .py file, everything is .py means, so it is completely a Python script. So except this HTML templates, inside these templates, we will be having the HTML file and CSS and JavaScript files. So these are all the in the browser to render the application to populate the UI, we use these HTML, CSS, JavaScript files in the templates folder. So other than that, wherever you see the .py file, so all the files are the Python files only, Python scripts files only. So even this is the manage.py file is the first main file. So when we are running the Python code, so we used to run the main method, right? That is the starting point of the application. So when even if you want to do some coding in this file, we can add the Python codes. So here just it is launching the server. Yeah. So this modeling is that is a one framework. So we extend that model and we are implementing the tables. So it means it represents if you create a class and if you extend the model, so then Django will recognize. So you are going to create a table. So and this when we are creating the columns, so this is the syntax. So in like this syntax, if we have to mention the column names. So whatever the variable names we are going to declare here, so those are all the columns of this table. So when we do the migration, so it go and create the table and the columns as per you mentioned in the database. So what is the main advantage means if you develop any application with the MySQL, okay, after some 1 or 2 years, so there is some disadvantage in the MySQL and they want to change the database. Okay, for example, there is a Oracle, MongoDB, and NoSQL, like that. So many database services are there. So if they want to change it, what you have to do in your application, you have to go and change entire scripts wherever you have written. For example, if one simple application also, it completely works on the SQL scripts. DB scripts. So that all the DB scripts, if you have to change it, if you want to change any database. But here we no need to change any of the scripts or nothing. In the settings.py, we just configure that which database we are going to integrate. So the Django framework will uh, take care of to convert all these class files to the tables to our required database. Okay, so here also we can write the Python code. So these are all the default methods. So when we are when the object is going to save, when the row is going to insert, so here it will come and stop. So here we can write a Python code to trigger the notification or something. So we can debug and save. So I just put a debugger here. So let's insert one data. So when we are inserting, we need to this like we are creating an object, and in this we need to pass all the column and then the values. So the models student name, subject author, and book size. All these values we need to pass. So student. So we need to pass the student object. So I am just fetching the student object. I will pass this one only. And then subject name. Subject author. First one is the choice field book size. So after that, we need to call this save. So even if you want to save it later, so you can take it in one object, obj. So later, after some of the coding you want to do, and later you want to save it, because if you want to roll back if it is not happened, so in that case, so you can use the object like this and you can save it. So now let's run this code. So then it should stop in the models.py. Okay, so when the object is going to save, it is stopped here. Okay, so the execution has stopped this. It means that, so before inserting the data, it will run this save method. So in this save method, if you want to trigger the notification to some user, so you have added to this subject or some notification, email notification or SMS notification or some any other functions. If you want to write the code, so you can write it. So then if we see the database, so Hindi, this is inserted successfully. So if it is not inserted, it will throw the exceptionals. This error is coming because here we have added the loop, but we are getting a single object. Before I am getting all the objects, so that's why it was a list of objects. So that's why it was iterating. So now we are going to iterate by using the for loop with the single object. So that's why it is saying, so you are going to iterate with the single object. Object is not subscriptable. So that is not an issue. So just we are testing all the model operations. So like this before saving, so they are doing some condition, and if it is not matched, so just they are returning. So like that, depend upon our requirement, we can write the code. So even still we can write a using raw SQL. So that is not recommended. Just we can check that. So just by adding like a manager.raw, so we can write a SQL queries. So like this objects.raw. So then we can write our query also. So this is not a recommended steps. So only very rare time you can use it. But when you change the database, again you have to change this SQL query depend upon that database. So even if we see this, you should be very careful whenever you write the raw SQL. Every time you use it, it should be properly escape any parameters that cannot control using the params to protect the SQL injection attacks. So SQL injection attacks means if we write the direct SQL queries, so somebody can easily attack from the front end. That one they are saying. This is actually SQL queries is not required. We however we writing the SQL queries in the same way. So by using the objects only, we can do all the operations. So whatever we require, so we can Google it. It will give that. We can't remember all the operations. So whenever it is required, if you want to update, if you don't know update query, so you can just check the update query. That's all. We'll see one update one. So when we fetch this object, so first before going to update that value, we need to fetch that object. For example, I have fetched this objects. So student object. Here, what I am going to do, objects dot that student column name. So I'm just going to change the name. I'm going to change to Raju. Then dot save. So after we update the column, so we need to run the objects.save. So it has been saved, object has been saved. So we'll see in MySQL. So first student, it was Guru actually. So we'll see here also. So before it was Guru. So now I changed to Raju. So like this, we can update the database. Okay, any doubts? Okay, so this is the models concepts. You just go through that other models, operations, how you do in the SQL and all. So if you have any doubts, you can just check with me. So tomorrow I will start with the forms, model forms. So in the model forms, how to create the forms in the front end and how to post that form. And by using that form, how can we save the data in the model? Okay, thanks. Bye.